being a fan is just being able to praise or critique anything. And I think that I've kind of melded the two of being a fan and a content creator. They're kind of one for me, where I'm able to still be a fan while talking into a microphone or talking into a camera.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy, Tom Talk Trash, and stand back for another interview. This time, I'm joined by the man, the myth, the absolute legend that is podcasting royalty, Mr. SP3. So, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you for that warm introduction. I'm glad to be back on here. I've done interview with you and Alex, so I'm glad to be on here myself.
So, if we take this back, my friend, where does SP3 first discover wrestling?
I first discovered wrestling when I was like a kid. I had to be maybe like 3, 4 years old. Like my first earliest memories. I remember going over to my grandmother's apartment because my mom used to work and she would drop me off over there. My grandma would always on Saturdays, that's when my mom would work and drop me off at my grandma's. She would watch WWF Superstars in the morning, and then 6:05 she would turn on TBS and watch WCW. Yeah, my grandma watched all of wrestling,
Hmm.
and that's how I kind of just started watching all of wrestling. I was introduced to WWF and WCW.
You talk about it being your grandmother and your mum sort of dropping you off and leaving you with her. When your mum found out you were watching wrestling, how did she feel about it?
I think she kind of embraced it because it was kind of something that was kind of in our family. My grandma was a wrestling fan. My uncle was a wrestling fan. My uncle used to have like the action figures on his wall in his room, and he would never touch them. He was like the first collector I
Mm.
ever met, but he wasn't like a big collector. You know, some of these collectors that have multiple different things. He had specific people. He had Ultimate Warrior and he had Ric Flair. Those were the two people he had on his wall. He never took them out of the packaging, and I always knew my uncle was a wrestling fan because of that, and my cousins were wrestling fans. So I think my mom just kind of embraced it and started getting me action figures and taking me to shows and whatnot.
So when you talk about your uncle taking you to shows there, so when you are sort of in the wrestling, I don't want to say bloodline because that's ripping off something else, but when your wrestling bloodline is revealed, are you one of those people that's like, I need to consume everything I can get my hands on? Or were you a bit hesitant maybe?
No, I kind of embraced wrestling like right off the bat. Like I said, my mom kind of embraced the fact that I kind of became a wrestling fan because the rest of the family, and she would buy me like action figures, and I would be playing with the action figures and create my own league and all wrestling promotion and book matches and pay-per-views and whatnot. And then the video games. My cousin got the first video game I ever played, I remember was WrestleMania the arcade game. So that just furthered my fandom of professional wrestling at the time. And he also had WWF Monday Night Raw, and I used to play that. So it was like video games, it was wrestling with my cousin, and then watching the wrestling at the same time. I was like fully invested from like the moment that I became a fan.
So when you are becoming a fan, are you sort of sitting down with your grandma, watching everything she's watching? When do you sort of discover your own fandom, for lack of a better word?
When I discovered kind of watching wrestling on my own without going to like my grandma's or watching it with one of my cousins was I was actually in this apartment because this apartment is where my dad kind of got it when I was young, so I kind of grew up here. There was like a VHS store like right down the block, and we used to go there and get like old VHSs of shows, and the first one I ever got was like WrestleMania 8.
Hmm.
And I remember I loved that so much that when we returned it, I but my made my mom buy the actual VHS of WrestleMania 8 because I loved that show. So I would watch that like all the time. Then we would get other VHSs from the rental place, and I would watch that on my own. And then the first thing that I remember kind of like watching weekly on my own was like Monday Night Raw when that first started, and I had to be like 5, 6 years old at the time.
Hmm. before we get into Monday Night Raw and how that changed your fandom, you talked about VHSs there. What do you think about the? Because I was talking with somebody else about this the other day. The lost art of VHSs, because we have the world's knowledge at our fingertips. So, do you think there's something that kids today may not understand about having to wait for to see a match, if that makes sense? Do you think the anticipation is gone?
I think that the appreciation of physical media in general is kind of gone because I'm talking about VHSs, and I know there are some people that are kind of newer wrestling fans that will tell you about them collecting DVDs and stuff like that. And all of that kind of seems like kind of ancient to kids nowadays that are just becoming wrestling fans when they can go on the WWE network or the Peacock and see any type of match from their history, or go on YouTube and see the history of like your New Japan and your All Japan and and you got WCW on the network there. So like everything you want to see is available at your fingertips. You just have to look it up, go into a Google and say this person versus this person. I think that physical media in general is not appreciated enough because it is a big part of a lot of people's fandoms like me.
Mm. Why do you think we could ever get back to that, where physical media is more appreciated?
Oh no. That's not gonna happen. That's not
No,
gonna happen. You can't go back. Yeah, it's like when you discover the internet. You can't go back to like type. Yeah, when you discover a computer, you can't go back to a typewriter. When you discover the internet, you can't go back to the newspaper. I haven't bought a newspaper in years because I got the internet. What do I need a newspaper for?
no, I understand what you're saying completely there. So when you do start watching Monday Night Raw, are you one of those people that's like, right, I need a load of VHS tapes because I need to record every episode because I want to watch it back? Are you one of those people that's catching up as much as you can? How do you consume Raw when it comes about?
Oh, I was watching it live. I was watching it live. I would sneak when I was a kid, when I was that young, when I first started, like 5, 6 years old, I would sneak and watch it because my bedtime was like 9 o'clock. So sometimes it would be like ending like 9:05. That was when back yeah, that's how far I go back. Back when Raw was just 1 hour. I
Mm.
went through different generation. I've seen every generation of Monday Night Raw. That's how long I've been a wrestling fan. So I remember when it was just 1 hour that was able to watch that, go to sleep, and talk about it the next day with my friends who would watch wrestling like in the first grade, like me. But yeah, it was very kind of a small group of us that was like that, but I would consume it live.
Mm. So you talked about there consuming it live and things like that. We talk about because we'll get into your podcasting career in a minute because I called you podcasting royalty, which is very true, by the way, my friend. Like,
I don't think that, but I appreciate it.
so you talked about consuming Monday Night Raw and things like that. Where is your current fandom as we sit here in January 2024? Where would you say your current fandom is?
The wrestling promotion that I feel most like a fan for is New Japan Pro Wrestling. New
Mm.
Japan Pro Wrestling, I can watch and I could feel more like a fan instead of someone who's watching this to get paid or watching this to produce content because I care about my content. I have a passion for it. I love it. I care for it. It's like a baby to me. It's like my third child. I already
Mm.
have two twins. I got a third child with all the content that I do, and I care for that as much as anything else that I do. So I care for my work enough that I do take in and I try to consume it and I take down my notes. But when it comes to New Japan Pro Wrestling, I can kind of just not take down notes, not to be typing anything, and just enjoy it and remember it and retain it and then talk about it. So that is probably the promotion that I feel most like a fan for.
That's very, very cool. So as we move on in your fandom, and you talked about where your current fandom is, how do you think being a podcaster for wrestling has changed your fandom?
Like I said, I think it's mostly been because I'm able to kind of say I'm watching this because I'm getting paid to watch this.
Mm,
Sometimes I feel like that when I'm watching certain stuff, just certain shows or certain segments, I could feel like that. I think overall in general in professional wrestling today, I have a least amount of complaints about a lot of different promotions. I think most of what we consume in wrestling, especially when it comes to the major promotions, WWE, AEW, New Japan, your Impact, TNA, those type of places, they're all good products and they all have tremendous talents that I'm able to just enjoy it and be a fan and also be a content creator at the same time.
mm. So, how do you get into? You talked about being a content creator at the same time as a fan. You talked about the fact that New Japan is sort of your, I don't want to say fandom promotion, but that's cheesy. But how does SP3 make sure he is still a wrestling fan when he's creating all this stuff and doing all the great content that you do?
I mean, just being a wrestling fan is just kind of just enjoying what you're seeing. So I there's a lot, like I said, in general today, the products around the wrestling world is a lot more enjoyable than it was in year past. I was talking to somebody, I was like, man, you wouldn't imagine how bad WWE was in 2019. It was a tough
Mm.
time watching WWE in 2019. I sound like an old man. That was like 5 years ago, guys. That was like 5 years ago,
Oh
but it
wow, it
feels
was.
it feels like the ancient past because we've been like we've only had like a good year of someone who actually cares about the product
The
with
fact that it
WWE,
was five
but
years ago is scary though.
it feels like so long ago now. But yeah, 5 years ago, this product was unwatchable. There was nothing good about it. There was some good, but every good they would just sprinkle in a lot of bad. So yeah, I get that. But nowadays it's a lot more enjoyable. We get a lot more great wrestling. We get some good storylines, some great promos. So I'm able to kind of be a fan, be a content creator, but being a fan is just being able to praise or critique anything. And I think that I've kind of melded the two of being a fan and a content creator. They're kind of one for me, where I'm able to be a fan while talking into a microphone or talking into a camera.
What do you, before we get into, and I keep pumping around, and that's just my style of interview, I do
Yeah, I
apologize.
love it.
But before, how do you sort of keep yourself in that zone to podcast? Like, we're jumping on this call now. How do you get into that zone to podcast, for lack of a better word?
Um, I mean, my zone, I don't know. Like, it used to be like I would get nervous before doing any, like, even like something like this, like an interview or any type of live stream. There would be some type of nervousness to it. But now I just get like sort of like excitement or oh, let's get this done. This should be, but it just winds up at the end that even if I have the feeling of, oh, let's get this done, at the end of it, I'm like, oh, that was a good time. And I'm laughing and joking with whoever I'm doing the stream with, or laughing and joking to myself if I'm doing a stream or a recording by myself, like, oh, that turned out well. So I think that that nervousness or getting ready, I don't have it. It's kind of just something I do. I'm clocking into work. I'm sitting down into my spot, sitting down into the computer, setting up, getting ready. Sometimes I get kind of antsy, especially when my like computer taking slow. I'm like, hurry up! I want to get on. I want
Yeah.
to get this going. I was like, I'm supposed to, man, like 2, 3 minutes ago, this computer taking 5 minutes to click on the link. Like, damn. So I'm like more like I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get into it.
Did you have that? And this might put me in a horrible light, but did you have that feeling of, oh, got to get this done when I asked you to do the show today?
Oh hell no. No, no, no. I was like, oh, man, I had a great time talking with you when we got to talk with you, whenever we get to talk with one another. I had a great time talking with you and Alex. That was one of my favorite
That was a
interviews
year
I
ago.
ever yeah, that's one of my favorite interviews I think I've ever done. And in general, I've loved the series of interviews that you've done with the rest of the True Hill Heat gang and hearing their perspectives, especially when you ask them about me. I'm it's like one of those instances, especially when you ask someone like Jimmy, who's known me for like 20 years, and asking him about high school SP3. And if y'all thought I was bad now, y'all should have saw me Yeah, 17-year-old SP3. Yeah, that was an that was a heel. That was definitely a heel.
Yeah.
That's where the true heel. So yeah.
You brought up Alex McCarthy there, someone that you and I have had the chance to podcast with a lot and stuff like that. But has Alex taught you anything about being in media or being in podcasting at all?
Alex, in general, working with him is a level of professionalism and class that he brings to what we do. It's something that I did not have before then. I don't think I have much of it now, but I have a lot more of it than I did before working with Alex. After working with Alex, because I know how to handle myself in different situations, whether it be I'm filling in on a podcast on Fightful, or I'm running the whole podcast on True Hill Heat, or I'm doing an interview. I think that Alex has kind of shown me how to be in all different roles in a level of professionalism that I didn't have previously, and especially on social media. I think that Alex handles himself better than most, and that is a model that I always try to follow there as well.
Mm. What about someone else that you have great chemistry with? The great man that is Sati Niangi. How does that chemistry come about? How do you guys sort of become a trio? And how do you sort of keep your chemistry different when, say, you and Sat are doing a podcast, and then you and Alex are maybe doing a podcast separately? How do you sort of make your chemistries different?
So I'm gonna give you a scoop. I'm gonna give you a scoop. I'm gonna give you my true feelings on how I felt when Sat Iniangi came on board at Wrestling Daily. Because if anybody knows the story of Wrestling Daily, it was not said at the beginning. It was myself, the great Stephanie Chase. Check out her and her work, Digital Spy,
Definitely.
her YouTube channel. Alex McCarthy, the face of UK wrestling media, and some other guy. And that
Mm.
some other guy decided to leave, and Sat came on, and I was like, oh man, they got another black guy. I guess I didn't fill the quota enough. But no,
I shouldn't
no,
laugh.
it's okay to laugh. It's okay to laugh. It's a joke. No, it was like, damn, are they trying to replace me? That's I'm giving you my honest. This is my thought process. Are they trying to replace me? And then I did a podcast with that, and I was like, no, oh no, I watched that actually. The first podcast he did with Alex, I watched that, and I was like, no, this guy is great. There's a reason why they wanted him. They saw that
Mm.
he has so much charisma, and he's able to kind of just flow and blend with somebody very quickly. Like the first podcast that I saw with him and Alex, I instantly saw a chemistry with them. And then I got the opportunity to fill in for Alex on a podcast, and I just had the funnest time ever, because sometimes, like, I can be the one that will bring the color, pun intended. As far as color commentary on a podcast, I can be the guy who's giving my what I think as far as like analyzing or giving my opinion, kind of being the guy who hits the home run after the guy pitches it to me. And I did a lot of that with Alex, and I do a lot of that on, like, say, like shows on Fightful, like I just did with Jeremy Lambert on In the Weeds. But I also can be like in the lead role and kind of pitch the ball to somebody else and let them have that spotlight and kind of bring the color, bring the opinions. And for the first time on Wrestling Daily, I was given that opportunity with Sat, because I had only been in in that role of kind of being the number two guy to Alex or to the other guy on certain days, or even to Stephanie, because I would fill in on days that Alex couldn't do Stephanie's day, but I would let Stephanie lead the show there. So I would never even run the show, even if it was me and Stephanie. So this was like my first opportunity, and I wanted to highlight Sat because I knew that Sat had so much talent and it needed to be highlighted, and that created Mocha Mondays. Like, we had so much chemistry, they decided to give us an extra day on Wrestling Daily. That's how
Oh
well
yeah.
it worked out with us, and I love all the opportunities that Sat has gotten with Wrestle Talk, because he's been such a great factor to them, kind of expanding their kind of the eyes put on them, because they have someone that looks like us on their screens, on the news, and everything he's doing. I'm so proud of him.
That's very, very cool. You talked about all the opportunities he's getting there, and things like that. How did it feel? Because we talked about it last time I had him on the show when he first joined Wrestle Talk full time. How did it feel when he had to come to you and Alex and be like, guys, I'm really sorry. I've got to step away to pursue these other opportunities?
So we had they had stopped doing Wrestling Daily, and we had started a few, I think like maybe close to a year, maybe like a few months later, we had started a new podcast, Monday Night Live, over on Inside the Ropes for Kenny McIntosh on their Clips channel. So we
Hmm.
had started doing that. We had gone a good few months, and we were getting a flow with it. And then Zach came through, and he's like, "Yo, Wrestle Talk want to sign me up. They want to take me away." And I was like, nah. Me and Alex instantly were like, no, you should take it. Because Sat was the one who was kind of hesitant to take that step. It wasn't like it was him can being like, oh, guys, I got to dip on out. We got to dip on out here. Started something with y'all, but I got to dip on out now. No, it was kind of, no, this is the opportunity I'm giving to you. What do you, that I've been given? What do you guys think? And both me and Alex said the same thing. We were like, you do that one, pick that one. That sounds like the better opportunity. You should be on their screens. You should be being seen by that platform because you've worked so hard to get that opportunity. And that's what you always wanted to do with Wrestle Talk. So I was very proud of him, like I said before.
Do you think we'll ever see either Mocha Mondays again with both of you, or do you think we'll ever see the trio reunite?
Well, you get to see the trio reunite once a month over on the True Hill Heat
Oh
flagship
yeah,
podcast.
sorry
Every
about
Saturday, no worries. No, this gives me an opportunity to plug. I always love the opportunity to plug.
that.
So every Saturday, 11:05 a.m. Eastern Time, we do the True Hill Heat flagship podcast for you folks over in the UK, because I know Tom got a lot of fans in the UK. That's 4:05 p.m. over there on the UK. We go live on Saturdays every single week, and then once a month we have Sat in Niangi, and we had that on True Hill Heat 258, which was our 7th annual True Hill Heat year-end awards. And Sat went off. He done dragged Commander through the mud. He done dragged MJF's babyface character. He was dragging everybody. So you got to see that. Sat was on there. We're gonna have Alex and Sat next month in February, or whenever next month, whenever you watch this, whenever this airs,
I
or you're
don't know when
watching
this is
this.
gonna air yet.
No
I'm not
worries,
gonna
no
lie.
worries. March, April, May, it doesn't matter. Whatever month, you can check it out. Whatever number I just said is probably a few more you have to just catch up on. So check it out once a month over on the True Hill Heat flagship.
So you brought up True Hill Heat there. We spoke to obviously a lot of your True Hill Heat co-hosts in December on Tom Talk Flourish about their journeys and stuff. So from your perspective, how does True Hill Heat come about? How do you maybe come up with the idea and things like that?
I did not come up with the idea of True Hill Heat. Well, first, True Hill Heat comes from us being called True Heels. So that came from us going to like Ring of Honor events back in like the 2010s, like 2011, 2012, 2013. We would go to Ring of Honor events at the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City, and we would always cheer for the heels.
Mm.
We loved the heels of Ring of Honor. If it was Christopher Daniels in there, a Frankie Kazarian, we would be cheering for them. Truth Martini, we would be cheering for him. We would cheer all the heels, and even people in the crowd would be like, "Oh, you're the heels as well. You're the true heels." And we was like, "Oh, we're gonna make it our own." And we were like, "We're not gonna make it just True Heel, TRUE." We was like, "True Heels." We want to make it our own thing, so we said TRU Heels, and then we basically went to WrestleMania 33 in Orlando, and we made shirts. We made like CM Punk inspired True Hills shirts, Bullet Club inspired True Hills shirts, and we went to all the events, whether it be a Wale Mania, whether it went to Supercard of Honor, or Raw and WrestleMania itself. We went to all those events wearing those True Hills shirts, the different shirts that we had, and we kind of represented, and that kind of started people kind of telling us like, "Oh, True Heels, yeah, that's cool, that's cool. You should do something with that. You should do something with that. So following WrestleMania 33, we created a Facebook group and we just started like building a community through there because I had been in other Facebook groups like Yep, I Like Wrestling and stuff like that, different wrestling groups around the way. And I had met a bunch of friends from the New York City area and they had joined the group as well. So we had built a community through there. And then a few months after that, we started the True Hill Heat flagship podcast. And we kind of just wanted to do it like once a month. We would do it live on Facebook, air it on there. We then had someone come to us and wanted to put it on their bigger Facebook page, and we had aired live streams on there as well. And then we started our YouTube channel in 2018, and then boom, 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 boom. All the things that happened after that kind of snowballed after that, but that's kind of that start of us doing the True Heels into True Heel Heat.
How does that become then? That's very cool. But how does that sort of become? We're going to review Raw. We're going to review everything under the sun, for lack of a better word.
Well, that changed for me in 2019. Funny enough, when we were talking about awful WWE. 2019, one of my friends that I'm very close to, shout outs to him, one of my best friends, Steve Stash, he talked to me and we talked about our YouTube channel and he liked what we were doing because we were doing the podcast. We had went from doing it monthly, like I said at the start in 2017 to by like the end of 2018 into 2019, we were doing it like once a week. We were doing that like once a week. We went from every 2 weeks after doing it monthly to doing it once a week. So we're doing it once a week where we're airing it live on the Facebook page that we had talked to that had a bigger platform as well. And then we would take that podcast that we did live on the live stream and then put it on our YouTube channel. And we only had like maybe like 200, 300 kind of subscribers on there. We've had the channel for a month. So my friend was like kind of told me and I told him like be honest with me. What do you think we should do? And he was like you should probably do more. He was like, you're doing like the podcast, but you watch all this wrestling. You always watch wrestling for as long as I known you. He was like, why don't you do like what Woke Culture and Cultaholic do? They do like reviews of NXT or reviews of Dynamite, reviews of Monday Night Raw. Why don't you do all that stuff? And then like the fall of 2019, that's when we decided to kind of like, expand all those friends and the community we had built. I kind of like asked a few people. I asked Romeo and I asked Jimmy and my friend Marcus Cash, do you guys want to do a AEW Dynamite review? You haven't been into wrestling for a while, so kind of be cool for you guys to come back into the world of wrestling and watch AEW. That would be interesting. My friend Ness, I was like, oh, you should watch NXT and do a review on NXT. It'll be Ness XT. And we just started doing more shows on the channel. And then from there, we started doing the podcast. That was going on weekly. Then we're doing different reviews and shows like that. And then from there, that's when the channel really started to kind of grow. And we saw the growth with the subscribers, the views of our videos. And that's how the YouTube channel kind of became what it is today.
That's very, very cool. You talked about how you grew your channel by doing more and more content there. So, if you had any advice for someone who might have a small channel, but they want to grow it into something more, what advice would you give them if they want to grow their channel?
Consistency is key. Consistency as far as when you're dropping content. Like I feel like the big thing that was for us was not just adding more content for us, is when we kind of had it established in people's heads this is when it's gonna be on. So it's like appointment. It was like, oh, I'm used to it. You guys are always on, so this is why I turn it on. Like Saturdays, we've been going live on Saturdays for like 2, 3 years now, and I think that that's what's basically rose that our flagship show is now going on. I think it's like 60, 67, 68 weeks where we've done 1,000 views for our flagship podcast, and that's because we've consistently been on Saturdays. They can count on us. They can watch us. It's also being about paying attention to what, if you're doing a wrestling channel, you need to pay attention to what the big news is. I think that's also been a key with our flagship podcast is that whatever the big news story is from the week, that's going to be in the headline. That should always be in the headline. Of course, you want to put your name out there, but your name can be at the end. The headline needs to be the first thing. We did last week. The Rock came back. So my headline was The Rock or Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns, WrestleMania 40. You got to look out for those buzzwords. The names of The Rock, the names of WrestleMania 40, the names of Roman Reigns. That was going to draw eyes, and that podcast did about 2,000 views. So it's just paying attention to those types of stuff and thinking about kind of what's the popular thing, what's going to get the Google Trends, what's going to get people to click on your videos, and consistency. You just have to kind of just think about it like a business sometimes, but also think about it as something you're creating because you have a passion for it and you have a love for it. So as long as you can balance those things, I think that you're going to see kind of the output, and the more views, the more subscribers you're going to get.
You talked about balancing both business and passion there. What do you do? How do you flip the coin of this will do well for business, but I really don't want to cover it, and vice versa? How do you flip the coin of, oh, I really want to cover XYZ, but it doesn't do very well on our channel? How do you make those decisions?
So I'll give you two good examples of both. So for something that I don't want to cover, but I know I had to cover it, and I knew it was gonna do good as far as like the video and the podcast would be our flagship podcast from 2 weeks ago when we had to cover Jericho's allegations.
Ah,
Because it was that morning. It was that morning I woke up and I had to do the podcast at
oh
11:05
dear.
a.m. I wake up at 7 a.m. and I see all of that, and it's like, well, I guess I'm ripping up this agenda. I guess we're not talking about that. I guess I got to add Chris Jericho allegations to the headline now because that's going to be a large portion of the show. So I know I had to cover it as soon as I saw it on social media, but I didn't really want to cover it because it's like it's rumors, it's not a report, nothing's been confirmed, but it's something that everybody was going to talk about in our live chat. We were going to get super chats on it. We were going to have to talk about it because if the chat's talking about it, we got to talk about it because that's how that show works, the flagship show where we talk about all the news and all the shows from the week. So I knew I had to do it. And it did well. It did like nearly 5,000 views. So, so at the end of the day, I didn't want to do it, but it did turn out well. It did get like the type of reaction that I expected it to get, but I did not want to cover it. And then something in general that I always want to cover, but it might not always do the best, is New Japan. New Japan
Hmm.
is something that not I don't think any channel covers as much as us, unless you are a New Japan based channel. If you're a wrestling channel that covers the big wrestling promotions, you're mainly doing WWE and AEW, and that makes a whole world of sense. And the ones that are most successful do that. But
Yeah.
we have found a level of success and a level of growth, especially in like 2023, where we went up by 8,000 subscribers. We started 2023 with about just approaching 4,000 subscribers. We ended 2023 with closing in on 12,000 subscribers. And we did that because, like I said, it was about consistency. It's about paying attention to what the big stories are in professional wrestling. And it's also because we have passion for stuff, and something I have passion for is New Japan. So despite it not always doing the best views, 2023 was also a great year for us with our New Japan content. Like we were able to interview people from New Japan like El Phantasmo and Hikaleo and Walker Stewart at the end of the year before Wrestle Kingdom. We had multiple different reviews and previews that did over 1,000 views. So the growth in our content over there, it goes back to being consistent with it. While it did not really work for us in the past, back in 2021, I was getting copyright strikes and being taken down off YouTube just for having a picture from New Japan because we
Oh
all
yeah, I was
know
just going to
New
ask you
Japan
about that.
New
They
Japan is
didn't like
very
that for the
strict.
longest time.
They did not like that at all. I used to have New Japan pictures from their website as thumbnails. And before we even went live on a live stream, because that was the thumbnail, it was taken down. it was instantly taken down, or I could not get any kind of monetization on the video. Like that's how it was just 3 years ago. And then you get to 2023, we did big views. We were doing even stardom stuff because we were doing so well with the New Japan stuff. So I think that is all about consistency and staying to what you're passionate about.
What do you do? Like you talk about consistency and passion there. What do you do on days you might wake up, you're like, I'm so tired, or you've done a lot of work and stuff like that, and you might think, I don't want to talk about wrestling today, or I don't want to create today. How do you overcome, as somebody that I interviewed before called it creator paralysis?
See, that's the thing with me. I'll tell you my secret. It's like Hulk in that first Avengers movie, Tom.
Mm.
I never stop talking. So, so, so talking about wrestling is just something that I would naturally do. If there was no mic, no camera, my missus gets annoyed with me because she stopped watching wrestling. So sometimes I just have to make up stuff for us to talk about from like 1991 when she was watching. You remember back in 1991, they had the Skinner versus Owen Hart. Owen Hart should have been teaming with Bret Hart at that WrestleMania, right, babe? I just like, and I always talk about Bret Hart because she's a big Bret Hart fan. So like, I just love talking about wrestling. So that's not the hard part. But sometimes you'll be sick. I was sick and I had COVID at the end of 2023, and I still had to do what I had to do as far as my content. Still had to do what I had to do as far as writing on Wrestle Talk, and I just had to push through it. I just had to keep my mouth shut, keep it going. There would be a lot. You'll go back to that content from that week if you want to go back and see. Oh, he was sick right here. It was when I would do a lot of cameras off. I would turn my camera off to turn my camera off and turn my mic off to blow my nose or like stuff like that. It was tough. It was a tough week that week, and I had to miss World's End. I was supposed to go to World's End. I had people from AEW hooking me up to go to World's End, and I couldn't go because I was
Oh
sick. So
man.
so yeah, it was a tough week for me, but I made it through. I was able to get through. Had to be away from my family because I didn't want to get my kids sick. My kids are only 3. I'm not getting them sick. They had COVID before me. They got me sick. They see. So always blame the kids. Nah, I love my kids. Uh, but nah, they had it before me. Then I got it, and I had to be away from them. So it was a tough week for me. But I just pushed through because it's what I do, what I'm passionate about, and like I said, I never stop talking. So you just have to just have to get in the right spot, set up, and I'm good to go.
That's very, very cool. As we look at wrapping this up pretty soon, because I do want to be respectful of your time, my friend.
Thank you.
How did your relation, before we get into your body slam stuff, which is recently new, how did your relationship with Jeremy Lambert come about, and you having a show with him, stuff on Fight Flow booked, appearing on Into the Weeds and things like that?
Well, Jeremy Lambert is a very kind of hard worker, and I always appreciate that. Anyone who I see hustling and putting in that work all the time, I have a huge amount of respect for. Even if I don't talk to you all the time, I have a huge amount of respect for you. So I would see Jeremy's name all the time on Fightful, like because I would look up news for for me to do content, whether it's on True Hill Heat, whether it was Wrestling Daily, and I would always see Jeremy's name. So then I started communicating with him on Twitter, and it would be like I would reply to something, or I think it was one time he was talking about on his show The Distraction back on the Fightful main channel
Oh
with
yeah.
Joe Holbert. He was talking about he wanted to do something with like basketball, and he wanted to guess that he can also talk basketball. He wanted to, I guess he could talk wrestling and basketball with. And I was like,
Your
I
wheelhouse.
immediately jumped at that. I was like, yeah, that's me. I was like, I'm a Laker fan. I was like, I'm gonna talk my trash about the Lakers, and I'll talk about some wrestling with invite me on. So he invited me on The Distraction, and I just had a great time with him and Joel, and I feel like that created like friendships that will never kind of break. I've been friends with those guys ever since. So then when Jeremy and the crew over at Fightful created the Fightful Overbooked YouTube channel, he was trying to think of like different shows to do. So he really wanted to do a show that wasn't about wrestling. that was about basketball. And he instantly thought of me to do it with from that stuff, from our conversations with me being a Laker fan and talking about that all the time and coming on the distraction. I've been on, I think I went on there like 2, 3 times by the time that was done. And he asked me to be on a new show and he was like, we're going to call it FMC. So we started off on Fridays, and FMC stand for Friday morning coffee. Then we moved to Mondays and it was first morning coffee, and then we moved to Tuesdays, and FMC can mean whatever you want it to mean at this point because we moved around so much, and we're just a morning sports show. It's our version of Undisputed, our version of First Take. I am a very biased Laker fan, and if the Lakers are winning, you could count on me to do a whole sermon like I'm a pastor at a Baptist church and I'm feeling the spirit. I'll even do some songs and some hymns for my Lakers. And Jeremy Lambert is not as biased, but he is a hater. He does hate on my Lakers, but he's a big Oklahoma City Thunder fan. And we know our basketball. We've been fans for 3 or 4 decades now. So I think that we have a level of knowledge of the game and our eye for basketball that we bring something a little different from the sports conversation that you wouldn't get from all those shows that I referenced earlier. So that has like kind of grew our bond even more to the point that I went out to Ohio for the first time in my life. Ohio is never a place you want to be on purpose, ladies and gentlemen. But I went out there for the first time in my life because Jeremy lives there and I saw him and his missus get married because I had to be there. He is my brother. He's one of my favorite people to talk to in general, let alone one of my favorite podcast partners. So everything I've done in Fightful Overbook, it kind of starts with Jeremy, starts with Joel. Joel is also great, the best Canadian in all of wrestling media. You heard me. Sorry, Spencer. I love you. I love Spencer Love too. But Joel Pearl is my guy. Love him. And they've had me do like we had one of our True Hill Heat shows, True Rewind, where we go back and watch the Monday Night Wars, me and Romeo, and we review them. We've done that on the Fightful Overbook YouTube channel. And then I just like to do everything not wrestling as far as like creative content creation that I ever wanted to do. They have kind of given me that platform over on Fightful Overbooked, whether it be I did a tier list of the best characters from One Tree Hill with Cher
Oh,
Delaware.
I've
I did
seen this.
I did a tier list of the best characters from the OC with Maggie. I love tier lists, and that's how I created my alias of Jerome YouTube. And yeah, Fightful Overbook has been my home of different alias and nicknames I've created, like Jerome YouTube, the Fightful Substitute Teacher, the New Media Forbidden
I'm the
Door. So
substitute TA, by the way. I don't know if you heard about this, but you know, I have my show on Fightful Overbooked. They call me the substitute TA, where my show will just get slotted in when somebody calls in sick and they can't do a show.
nice, nice. We all substitutes in some way, man. They need to pay us, man. They need to pay
Yeah,
us. We need
yeah.
a real job. We need a real job. What we talking about here? I'm gonna fight for me and Tom to get our real job. We sick of being substitutes.
Oh, yeah. As always, my friend, it's been great chatting with you. But before we do generic questions and things like that, where does your relationship with Cassidy Haynes start and you becoming the media manager for Body Slam?
Cassidy Haynes is someone that I think I met through Jeremy and the rest of the wrestling media game as far as in Fightful. I think I met Cassidy through them, but I got to have Cassidy on True Hill. He invite him on and talk about different reports that he's done for Body Slam. And that was back in like 2020, 2021. And then Full Gear 2021, I got to actually meet him for the first time in person because we were both out in Minnesota, in Minneapolis for Full Gear. And I got to hang out with Cassidy the whole time. And Cassidy, he hangs out with with wrestlers. I'm gonna expose him. He hangs out with wrestlers. That's what he does. So I was hanging out in the hotel, in the wrestlers hotel, and I got to hang out with people like Hook and stuff like that. So ever since then, that was kind of our bond. And I was like, yeah, here's my best friend. That's my buddy. And anytime there's a wrestling show and we are at the same place, I'm usually gonna hang out with him. And we got one of our best bits when we hung out at the last time was All Out. No, the second to last time was All Out 2023. I was in Chicago. So was Cassidy Haynes, and I got stopped by someone who actually recognized me, guys. They actually recognized me. I got stopped by someone at Starcast, and they stopped me, and they were like, "Oh, I know you. You're the guy, the black guy that won Quizlemania." So
Oh
that's become
wow.
my bit. That's another nickname for me because that guy has totally changed my life because I realized I'm the Jackie Robinson of Quizlemania. I was the first black man to win Quizlemania. There was only one man that could walk on the moon. There's only one first black man that could walk on the moon as well. And I walked on the moon. I won Quizlemania, and only other black man to do it outside of me is Will Washington. And we see him, he making the big bucks over in AEW. So I had to crawl for him to walk. And I'm proud of that.
That's very, very cool, my friend. Is there anything before we do generic questions that either Jeremy Lambert or Cassidy Haynes have taught you about podcasting?
Jeremy Lambert, he has just taught me to just use my personality more. And I have a sense of humor. I always love to laugh. So he's brought that out more in me and doing bits and popping myself. Jeremy Lambert is excellent at that, and he's taught me to do that more. As far as Cassidy Haynes, more Cassidy Haynes has taught me that you can still be kind of a fan and be yourself, but also be someone in the wrestling media that, people can look up to and can hold a level of professionalism and a reputation. As far as like going back, I realized I never really answered your question as to how I became Body Slam media manager, just how me and Cassidy became fans. But talking about that, basically what happened was in 2023, towards the end of the year, Cassidy really wanted to kind of re-energize his YouTube channel over at bodyslam.net. They had been doing some good work over there in the 2 years prior to that when they had consistent like content creators, but that has slowed down. Some of the people have moved on to newer opportunities, and the YouTube channel had kind of gone without videos or live streams for like 3 months or so. So he asked me to kind of come on board. He saw what I was doing with True Hill Heat and the growth that we had in 2023, and he wanted to see if I could bring some of that to Body Slam and recruit new people and have new faces over at Body Slam. And I took that as an opportunity really for myself to open the door and give opportunities for other people that I didn't think that had that many opportunities out there or didn't have their YouTube channel or lost out on other opportunities. Someone that had was gaining some momentum, like Lyric. Lyric is so talented, has such a great voice in this wrestling media game, and she's someone that is so knowledgeable, and not just on the major promotions. Like I always say, she watches stuff in Japan, All Japan Pro Wrestling, Stardom, and she's just so in tune with it and knows what she likes, knows what she doesn't like, and is very outspoken about it. And I love that about her. And she was one of the first people I wanted to give that opportunity to. You interview Stephanie Hypes. She's someone that is just
Love
so
her.
likable, so positive, just a ray of sunshine that, I brought her on board of True Hill Heat now 2 years ago. And when I had the opportunity for another place to put her on a platform, I was like, yeah, you can, I'm going to give you another opportunity because I feel like you're so talented, and not enough people, even though we've grown so much, more people need to see Stephanie Hypes. And I love the fact that she was the one that asked someone like Queen of the Ring, who I've known for years, and I used to go to independent shows with back in 2017 before I ever started doing anything like this, before she got a lot of momentum and got opportunities. We knew each other. We used to go to Ring of Honor events and see each other in the crowd, and I stood next to her back at All In before AEW ever started in
Oh,
2018.
that all in.
I was next to her at All In Chicago in 2018. So yeah, I've known Queen of the Ring for such a long time. So to have a new position and she's one of the people that gets that opportunity to be on that platform, I think has just been tremendous. And everyone else from Meeks and Al doing the AEW Collision review, from the heel Marks crew of Danielle and Brady who do our ROH review. We have so much talent, Kat and Shay who do our NXT review, and so much talent that we're talking to right now and gonna present on our YouTube channel. So 2023 was just the start. 2024, I'm looking for more growth and more people to give that opportunity to over at Body Slam.
That's very, very cool, my friend. As we look at wrapping this up, because believe it or not, we've been going just under an hour, which is what I feel like happens when you and I talk because we don't have a script. We just chat. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
we just go for an hour sometimes. It's like I got to be respectful of this man's time. He has kids. You know what I mean?
It's true.
But as we wrap this up, SP3, we are going to do a segment you've probably done on this channel before, but it's called generic questions. Those of you that have seen my interviews before know this where I ask SP3 his favorite match, favorite overall event or pay-per-view card, favorite theme song, favorite tag team, and favorite wrestler. It's been a while, guys. I'm a bit rusty. I'm not going to lie. But it's basically the questions that I think SP3 might be asked on social media. So now he'll have a place to be like, guys, I have answered this. Go watch this. So, what is your favorite match?
Favorite match of all time. So I think I answered this the same and it hasn't really changed. It usually my answer would be Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada, Dominion 2018, the 2 out of 3 falls match. But we're doing a new one. So there's a match that has gotten close to that since then. So I'm gonna mention Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay at Wrestle Kingdom 17.
Oh, I like both of them. What about your favorite pay per view of all time, my friend? As in, like I say, Double or Nothing 2019, for example.
Usually my answer, and it's gonna be my answer again. It's All In. It's All In. There was just a special feeling that day. There was no like 5-star match, no like matches that I'm like saying that's on the all-time list, but that event is on the all-time list because of the importance, what it resulted in, and just the feeling that I had walking into that building, knowing that some indie wrestlers, some guys from New Japan Pro Wrestling, from Ring of Honor, had sold out a 10,000 seat building. There was just nothing like it.
And then, what about your favorite theme song?
Favorite theme song? Oh man. I mean, I'm gonna have to go recent. Like so when you interview me again, I'll just give you another one that's recent. I'll go recent. I'm just going when I swerve, when I drop, I swerve Strickland, man. Come on, man. Nana is our guy.
Mm.
Nana, we've been riding with Nana since like to the 2000s when he was with the crown jewel of the embassy, Jimmy Rave. I'm so proud of Nana. He's from New York as well. He's been here for years, so it's his home as well. So shout out to Nana. Swerve Strickland's theme.
AEW champion in 2024?
100%. He's the next AEW
I
World
hope
Champion.
so. I really hope so. But your favorite tag team of all time, my friend?
Favorite tag team of all time is Edge and Christian. It I'm either gonna answer this one or two ways. When you if you ever ask me this again, it would be Edge and Christian or the Young Bucks. But today I will say Edge and Christian.
Show. You gave me two answers, my friend. So what we do on this show now is we fantasy book this. Where does this match take place? What timeline? What's the stipulation? And who goes over?
TLC in 2015. We're gonna act like both of those guys, both Edge and Christian were wrestling in 2015 and able
Mm,
to come back. 2015 TLC in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. What was
who
the
goes
other thing?
over?
Who
Who
goes
goes
over?
over?
Young Bucks.
Mm. Oh, you're doing the heel move of putting the Young Bucks over. Okay, okay. I like
They're the
that.
younger guys. They're future stars. They gotta go over, even though it's in Toronto.
Oh, I like that. And then as we wrap this up, SP3, who's your favorite overall wrestler of all time?
Favorite overall wrestler of all time, I think I'll answer this the same every single time. It's Bryan Danielson. I've never had a connection unlike that with a wrestler where I got to see him like start from the bottom the first time I ever saw him. Final Battle 2006, lost the Ring of Honor World Championship to Homicide. That was the first time I saw him live. Saw him on multiple DVDs before then, but I just had that connection where I was like, that guy's the best wrestler in the world that day, and that has never changed every single time I've watched him on TV or live ever since. So Bryan Danielson, number one. And I got to see him start from the bottom, make it to the top, WrestleMania 30, and then what he's doing right now with AEW is tremendous as well.
It's very, very cool, my friend. So as we wrap this up, SP3, obviously I want to say thank you for another great conversation. But I end this show on, I believe as content creators, we're all sort of gonna live forever in some sort of very strange way, if you think. So what is one piece of content you're like, I would like to be remembered for that? And then what is one that you're like, if you could forget about that, I would appreciate it.
Hmm. If there's one piece of content that I wish you can forget, there was I think I scrubbed that. I don't know if I deleted the video, but there was one video that was out there from when I first to start a YouTube channel back in 2010. And I had like a red kind of handheld camera. I set it up and I just did the video. I had Eminem playing in the background. Can't do that type of stuff nowadays. Like you get
Mm.
sued for that. I had Eminem playing in the background. I was talking to the camera. Didn't do any editing. I just put the video up. So at the end, you see me go to the camera and turn it off. So like, yeah, that was amateur hour 101. So that one I would love to get off, and you can forget about that one. But you won't see that because I deleted it. Or I'm going to. Um, and then as far as like what I want to be remembered by, um, like it just has to be one.
Or some pieces of content you want to be remembered for.
Uh, every True Hill Heat flagship podcast and every episode of AE Ramble. AE Ramble with me and Jimmy is basically every wrestling conversation I was having for the 20 years before I became a podcast host. And you guys get to see it. You guys have got to see it for 128 weeks now of me and Jimmy and our conversations from years ago. And we bring it up sometimes of we used to argue about Chris Jericho and we used to argue about Shawn Michaels and stuff like that. And we'll go into it. So I think that in a nutshell is like my wrestling fandom in a yearbook. So AE Ramble would be up there as well.
That's very, very cool, my friend. So as we wrap this up, obviously I want to say, like I said, thank you for a great conversation. Thank you for coming back on. But also thank you for always being so kind to me in this space. Like you're always someone that's very cool with me, very kind, and everything in between. Please promote yourself. Where can the good people find you, your work, etc.?
Thank you so much, Tom. Thank you for having me on your channel. And you guys, subscribe to Tom's channel, man. This dude is doing great content. I've said it over on the True Hill YouTube channel before. There's no one who takes as much like care and focus on their interviews with content creators in the wrestling media game like Tom. I don't know if there's anyone else who does it in general, but
I
I
don't
know
think
they don't
so.
do it. I know they don't do it like Tom. So I'm just going to keep it as that. They don't do it like Tom, even if they do it, but I don't even know anybody else that do it. But Tom is doing it. He's setting the trend for others to follow. And I think that you have work all over your channel that you should be proud of, and more people should be watching it. So if you haven't already and you're watching this interview because you like my antics being the Fightful substitute, or you like my antics on the True Hill Heat YouTube channel, or you like my antics popping Dutch Mantel over on Sportskeeda, you need to hit the subscribe button and subscribe to Tom's channel because he's got great interviews with everyone from wrestling media. You probably shouldn't be watching me. You should probably watch his interview with Sean Rossap. Basically, what I'm saying. But as far as me, you can follow me on the True YouTube channel. You can follow me on the Twitter machine at True Heel SP3. That is TruHeel SP3. Follow me over there. I talk about wrestling a lot of times, basketball sometimes, and even some movie and TVs. Man, Echo let me down. You let me
I've
down,
still
Echo.
not seen that.
Oh, just oh. Oh man, I talked about it. Check out my my Twitter handle. But yes, uh, that is a great place to, and also the True Hill Heat Sports YouTube channel, because we're gonna be revamping that and making a little rebrand for that channel, where maybe you might hear me talk about some TV and movies over there to go along with the basketball and stuff like that. So check out both of those channels. Check out all my work wherever I am. You said it before, FMC Fightful Overbook Tuesdays, Sports Kita Wrestle Bringe with Dutch Mantel, Rick Ucchino on Fridays. That's all I got.
It's well worth doing, guys. I said it as we were wrapping this up. One of the hardest working dudes in this space, but one of the nicest as well. So if you guys like this, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Tom Talk Fresh on YouTube. Follow me on the Twitter machine at Tom Talk Fresh, and I will see you in the next episode. Goodbye now.